This is Dan Jurgens, and if you want to have a good time, keep listening to the Krypton Report.
Jason J. Lewis, the voice of Superman on Justice League Action, and you're listening to the Krypton Report.
Hi, this is David Patrick Wilson. I played Superman, Clark Kent, in the television production of It's a Bird, It's a Plane, enjoying every minute of being right here on the Krypton Report.
Look up in the sky, it's a bird, it's a plane.
Welcome to the Krypton Report podcast. I'm your host, Tyler, the Superman of Blue, the man of tomorrow. And I have a special guest today that I have not got to speak with yet. We just chit-chat a little bit before we start. And without further ado, I'll go ahead and say this is Mr. Lenny Schwartz, and we have something in common, and we're going to talk Superman and theater today. Welcome,
nice
Lenny.
to meet you, Tyler.
So if anybody who listens to this, which you probably do, is a fan of our friend Steve Eunice and over at Superman homepage, he put up an article the other day about a play that is being done about Jerry Siegel and Joe Schuster. And I immediately was fascinated by this article. And I read through it and I saw that you could contact the play's director and writer, Lenny. And immediately I sent him an email like, hey, man, I'd love to talk. Let's get on the podcast and do this. And he graciously responded. And here we are today.
It was an honor. I got that email. I love doing podcasts. I've done all when so I love that there's so many or just people who are fans of comics doing podcasts or the characters. I've been on Batman podcasts, Spider-Man podcasts, so it's pretty cool. And then this is regular comic podcast. And it's so cool that this is actually happening in the world. When I was, I'm going to be 48 this year, and when I was growing up, I wish there were podcasts going around. It's so cool that people are just putting themselves out there and just talking about what they love. And you obviously, just from your looking at your room, you love Superman, obviously.
Yeah, it's a maybe it's an addiction. Who knows? It's all good.
Yeah, it's all right.
That's what we do.
Is it just Superman, or just is it every other character, or just?
Superman? I mean, so it's majority Superman, but like right here, you can't see on this side. I got some Flash stuff. It's mainly all DC stuff, but I have a shelf over here that's like in the corner. It's all my Batman stuff.
Yeah, that's awesome.
There's a joke that I like to make that I've heard that men no longer have midlife crisis; they just make podcasts. And I was like. I was like, yes. Yeah, okay, I'll agree.
That's amazing.
But I am happy to talk. I'm looking for that article on the Superman homepage right now.
I can tell you all about it if you want. I can kind of tell you about the show. I'm a very verbose guy. I can keep going for like hours.
I could figure that. But yeah, why don't you go ahead, Lenny here. Call you Lenny. Some people.
Yeah, call me Lenny. Absolutely. So so I'll kind of go over it real quick. I mean, so the play we're doing is about basically the creation of Superman. It's with Jerry Siegel, Joe Schuster. We take them from as kids, teenagers in Cleveland. We get to see them meet. We get to see all the things, and we get to see everything leading up to when they created Superman and all the different things that happened till that moment. And then we also get to see what happens after the creation of Superman. And all the things that happen to them legally, emotionally, and all those things. And, we see Superman, when I look around your room, I see Superman being this, wonderful character about truth, justice, the American way. And the way that Jerry and Joe were treated wasn't very Superman-like, we'll say. And I just think that this is the wild, wild west of the comics. They really are in the wild, wild west where, they didn't know they created the next Mickey Mouse. They didn't know they created, something when they handed it over to, to National at that point. But then when, then when you realize it and realize, they actually did, they didn't, what they actually had in their hands and they lost it. They did, someone said to me, well, he did make some money on it, but you look at everything that's Superman. I mean, even your room alone, think about how many people have just your room alone. I'm looking at all the different Superman things. How many of those dollars, if you compared it to what Jerry and Joe and their families make, it's like a pittance, really. And it really is. And that's, there's a poster. Hey,
yeah.
But that's by the great Arlen Schumer, I will say. He's a great guy, great artist. Very, very generous. The thing I will say about the play, though, you get to see that, and that kind of I mean, that's kind of where I liked. I've written a few comic book plays, but that's kind of where I like to live. I like to live in
Mhm.
that. What are the creators like? What is the thing behind this thing? How do they contrast to their creations? To me, it's very interesting how a lot of these things get created. And I actually was at one point, one of the reasons I wrote the show, I was actually very scared to tell this story, to be honest with you. And it's because I've written a lot of theater, but it's like how do you tell this story, and make it something that's unique, that people want to see, that people will inspire people, and not make it depressing, because some parts of it can get very depressing. How can
Yeah.
you make something that's full of hope, that like Superman is? And I think that is really just stripping down all the incidences that happened to them and talk about them, and then put it all together and realize that in a sense, sure, these things happen, and sure, the lawsuits and all those things, but in the end, these guys did create the great American hope. They created a great American character who made this, who really is a shining beacon for people. And I think that's great. I think that's wonderful. That actually, that they did this. I was actually going to put it on last fall, but I remember the Superman movie was coming out by the great James Gunn. And I said it'd be great to do it in May, so it kind of leads into it for people. But I like that. I like the idea that people see it and they see the credit. They'll see the Siegel and Schuster in the credits, and they'll know what it actually means, why they're
Yes.
there, why it was so hard to get that in there. And I think that's so important, that people see that. I think that all the comic creators deserve that and have that their name up there in the lights. Anyway,
I
that's where
I
I'm at with the creative.
no, no, like so first of all,
Mhm.
I completely agree with what you said about the comic creators, because the second of all, with that same mindset, I wanted to direct years ago. I thought it'd be fun. Like, I love Superman, but then my sister-in-law, who passed last year, um, really got me more into our local community theater.
Oh,
It's where
yeah.
it's where I met my wife years ago.
Oh,
Our family's been a part of it and everything. And I talked years ago about wanting to direct It's a Bird, It's a Plane, It's Superman.
yeah.
But
You
then,
mentioned
like,
that.
and then the kids come and everything. So after she passed and everything, and we decided we wanted to get back more to our local theater, my mother-in-law approached me and said, would you want to direct it now, and we can do it as a family? So my mother-in-law and I are directing it. My wife's doing the musical direction. And with the same mindset, we were like, well, we'll kind of leverage that the new movie's coming out to
Yeah,
help promote, and it's in pop culture,
yeah.
and we'll use that to help, sell the idea, to help,
The
maybe it'll help
community. Yeah.
drag in attention.
Yeah, when is your show going up? Yeah, you
Uh,
mentioned
it goes up July. I just drew a blank. Jesus, it's a week after the movie opens.
That's
So
amazing. That's so cool, man. I'm so happy you're doing that. That's so cool. I mean, honestly, I'm just glad our dates aren't conflicting. So
it's
people listening to the podcast are like, we have to choose? No. Anyway.
it's July 25th and 26th,
Nice.
27th, and then August 1st, 2nd, and 3rd.
That's awesome. How big's the theater?
It's a couple hundred seat theater.
That's
That's
bigger
like
than a community. That's like a rough Broadway house. It feels like.
it's an old. Oh, you know what? Next time, I don't have any on my phone right now, but next time I'm down at the theater,
Yeah,
I'll take a couple of pictures, snap it, and just send it your way.
that would be amazing.
It's a beautiful old theater.
Yeah.
And
Good for you, man. That's awesome. I'm so happy to hear people doing community theater and doing or any type of theater, honestly. My other passion, one of my passions is community theater. I also feel like the underseen plays, and that's definitely a play I don't think a lot of people have seen recently. I think that people, they may not even know it exists, honestly.
And that was another part of my pitch was it's a recognizable character. And yeah, it was written in the 60s, and we had to do some tweaking, a couple parts of the script for, cultural sensitivity.
Mhm.
But it's not a show that you see done all the time, where like you're in near Columbus and everything, and you see all the other community theaters, and you start to see the same shows over and over. And this is one that nobody's been put on, so I'm really hoping it helps draw in a crowd.
Yeah, me too, man. I mean, that's great. I love that, and I think that's so wonderful. Like I said, it's the same thing here. You see people doing, Rent, or doing like, not there's anything wrong with these shows. We see Rent, we see like, they're all doing, either, it's just like Annie or something. They'll see it, and you'll see one theater do it, and then another one does it like halfway, halfway, like 30 miles from that one or 20 miles from that one, and doing this, and they're all spreading the different shows around so much. And I only do original shows, but I love when people do shows that are underseen, and I think that's great.
I'm actually working on an original play right now as kind of it's my first time writing a play, and I'm working on it to help just kind of my family dealing with the grief and the loss of my sister-in-law and stuff. And I'm hoping to pitch it to maybe perform it in 2026.
Yeah.
But
that's great. That's great. And I think that's a great expression to use that for. If you need some help with it, let me know. I'll be happy to look at it for you.
Oh, I appreciate that.
Absolutely. Just keep in mind it takes me 3 months to get back to anyone about anything anymore.
Yeah, I get it. I get it. But let's talk a little about Jerry and Joe here.
Sure.
My first question for you: have you been to the Siegel house?
I have not, but I have. So I can't really talk about too many contacts I've had there, but I've had plenty of people who have sent me pictures and information about it. And I did a lot of research talking to some people that I'll say in the Cleveland area who have very strong opinions about things. And I've seen lots of the Siegel house. Have you been there? Or?
Yes.
How is it?
It was 2 years ago. We went up there. We took the kids to the Cleveland Museum of Art. They had a big dinosaur exhibit.
Yeah.
And while we were there, like, well, I've been wanting to go by the house and everything. So we went. And the one thing, so back in 2018, and they did the Cleveland Library did from Cleveland to Krypton. And it was a big Superman exhibit with stuff in it and artifacts and everything. And we saw that. And then, like I said, later we went to the house. And I told my wife, I said, what would be great is if, like, now, the Siegel or Schuster Society or whatever could purchase that house and turn it into a museum.
That'd be wonderful.
Because the house is beautiful. They have everything in front of it, but it's in a rough neighborhood and stuff.
Yeah.
But like, if it was like built into a museum, it would be pretty amazing.
Yeah, and I knew that too. That would be amazing, especially to help out that neighborhood too. And it's so funny how Cleveland is it's such a rich town. I mean, really, you have literally you had the creator of Superman, and you had Harvey Pekar there too. That's such a rich comic town. It's just like, and
I think Tony Isabella lives up there.
Yeah, Tony Isabella's there. Yeah, you're right. Absolutely. Yeah, I mean, it's such a rich comic town, and I think that they were. I mean, yeah, and I knew that there's so many people that went through New York to Harvey Pekar to work with them. Dean Haspiel, I know that, Ed Piskor. A lot of people like worked with him, and even like someone like Robert Crumb went through there. It's so interesting to me that that's like it's like almost like a hotbed, and you never expected that town. If that town could really. There are rough parts of that town. If they could really get that together, that would be a really good destination place, really. And especially for the home of Superman. I mean, why not?
Yeah.
Anyway.
You're right. It's sad because I don't think Cleveland's taking advantage of that as much as it could. And the Siegel and Schuster Society have their big tribute plaza that they're trying to raise money to build.
And
everything, and they're close. They're like 70% funded for that right now.
It's amazing they got that far. It's so great that they got that far. I do hope that they do get that. I think it'd be great. I think what would be really honorable is because I know. So I do stuff with I know Athena Finger, who does
cool.
Bill Finger. I know Athena very well. She's wonderful person. She's trying to raise money for to get Bill Finger a star in the Hollywood Walk of Fame, and that's $75,000. But we have all these conventions, right? This is what I'm gonna say. Maybe I want a convention once I'm gonna say this. It'd be great if they put $1 in the ticket price just for that, for every ticket sold, just to go 1 year to a cause. The cause being, that if they did that, just $1, 125,000 people go to San Diego, just for like a handling fee or something like that. They'd raise that money each year for something like that. And I think that would be amazing. So, Bill Finger 1 year, Jerry Siegel, Joe Schuster another year, and rather than have these societies who are working so hard to get these things done and so admirably done, like getting a statue just for Superman and getting Superman Plaza going, and this, trying to bring that hope to that area and trying to really like. It's so good that they're doing that, but to have that little bit of hope to do that, it'd be nice if the Comic Cons, and the Comic Cons I'm sure have a lot to pay for, and I get that too. But $1 more, nobody would balk at.
Yeah.
Nobody for that.
Nobody would even really notice it.
No one would notice. I'd pay $5 if someone whatever, just to per ticket more, just so we can help these guys out.
Well, it's like, okay, so here in Ohio, I annually pay $20 to renew my Superman license plates, because and that $20 goes to the Siegel and Schuster Society for the Tribute Plaza.
Yeah, that's amazing that they do that. Yeah, and it's funny you said that, because one of the things I did talk to somebody, and it's like, well, to talk about the play, and they're like, well, we don't want to. Someone once said to me, I shouldn't probably say this, I won't say who it was. Says, no one will kind of give you. We'll give you information, but we don't want to peeve off DC Comics because of those license plates. And because like that's the big thing. And DC works with them in Cleveland. It's so cool that they do that. And I said, and like my play is actually not. I want to say it's not. It doesn't really. It does talk about the things about DC they should make right with the Seagulls and Shooters at all points, everything. They should always be making it right. I do believe that. But even back then, there were people in those roles who like any other job. They're like, they're like they want to protect the company, to get money for them. And I get that. But again, it was the wild, wild west. So nobody thought that when they're creating these characters, said, oh, maybe this will take off. Nothing like Superman has ever been done before. It's nothing like Batman had ever been done before.
The idea of branding, the idea of like really merchandising,
right?
And owning the trademark and the logo, and having residuals from selling toys or other things. That wasn't in anyone's mind.
No, they were just like, we want to create a character for a comic book for this week, and this is our character. We kept going. Maybe he'll run in like Syndicate. Maybe he'll be a newspaper guy, a newspaper strip or something like that. And it's so funny because those things take off, and it's like, okay, now how do we get this back in the play? It's like, we did this so we can get this going, but now that it's launched, what do we do? And that's the thing, the thing, I don't know if you probably know him, and people, one way or the other, is Rob Liefeld with Deadpool. Rob Liefeld, I actually very much admire Rob, and I think that he had the foresight to look at that and see what the creators had happened, and people were like, oh, Rob this, Rob that, it's like, I deserve credit, I deserve this. Guy does deserve credit, I mean, he really does. And the thing that's just amazing about that is that he had the foresight to say, hey, you know what? I'm creating these characters. I want to have some stake in this. So I'm not, even at that young age. And he might have actually been one of the first, one amongst the first to actually realize that, hey, this could be lucrative for us, and that's how Image happened, basically, with Spawn and all those things, because they knew they had the creative engines to do these things. So why they give them to the companies, and I think, I get the company perspective. They have to toe the line at some point, but I do believe that even now the creators are kind of pushed towards the back, and I think I think in any respect, I think that anytime a creator's like, hey, I got, I would like to, get, at least be acknowledged I'm the creator, then they should be, And so that's just my feeling. So yay, Rob, Deadpool. Anyway.
No, I mean, I agree. I always have, as a creative person myself, like having that respect for the people who create it, and like I always tell my kids, like, if you get interested in something, whatever it is now, like a character or whatever, what's the history? Like, do you go back, like, and at least, because like I've watched the Kirk Allen serials and stuff, and
absolutely, yeah,
and they've seen those with me, and they're like, but they did enjoy it. They watched some George Reeves with me, and I'm like, and I told them, I was like, it's important to know where your character comes from,
right.
Even if it's not your favorite version, just having that history.
Right. It really is in how they're represented in media, and do those things. I think watching the Kirk Allen ones and the, George Reeves ones are just, to me, I've seen them so long ago, and they're such artifacts to me. You know, I really believe that there's such artifacts and they're so interestingly done,
Mhm.
and you know, especially for that time. For me, I mean, honestly, it's so tough to like, you know, if someone asked me the other day, like, what's your favorite version of Superman?
I
And
was
I'm
going
like,
to ask you.
yeah, I think that's my favorite. So I would like to know yours too. My favorite version of Superman. I'll tell you this. It kind of is like a threefold question. So in the movies, I mean TV. Honestly, it would actually have to be. Honestly, I love Smallville. I really love Smallville. I thought Tom Welling was great. Although Tyler Hoechlin, I think his name
Yeah.
is. He was so good in the most recent Lois and Clark show, or Clark, or whatever it was called. I watched that literally, like literally over the course of like 5 or 6 days, over the course of a week, all 4 seasons, and I thought he was very wonderful too. And TV, I really thought that Tom Welling really kind of nailed for me though, from my like generation of doing that. But if you look at even George Reeves, there's a lot that's there. It's so good. He's so good as Superman. So, you know, it's that's kind of tough to say. My favorite movie Superman so far, though, and people laugh at me at this one, but I just love him. I love Christopher Reeve. I mean, I was 3 years old and saw Superman 2, and I remember every line of dialogue from it. And it's such a wild movie. I just love that he enables that he just not enables, he inhabits that character so well. And there's a moment that if you watch him in Superman even 1 or 2, when he just flips back from Clark to you can tell
Mhm.
they're two different characters, and he makes that work. He was really the one of the few that made the glasses work, you
Yes.
know. So I mean, he really knows how to wield that. Where, you know, I actually don't mind Henry Cavill. And a lot of people are like, "Oh, he's great." I'm like, "Yeah, he's good." I really liked Man of Steel. When Zack Snyder wasn't blowing everything up, I kind of enjoyed it. I did enjoy the last 5 minutes of it when he becomes Clark Kent. I thought that was so cool.
Yeah.
I enjoyed that. That was such like an emotional moment. But I'd go with I'd go with Christopher Reeve as being my favorite version of the movie version. Although I actually really even like Brandon Routh. I thought he was actually pretty good too. It just wasn't a great movie. Unfortunately.
Now we have an episode coming up in May where
Yeah,
we're gonna focus more on Brandon's portrayal and looking at him
yeah.
not only from what he did in Superman Returns, but how he continued kind of that in the
Oh yeah.
Crisis event on TV.
He's
And
good. Like he's a really nice guy, and he's really good at the. He was good. He just didn't give him he wasn't a star at the time, and he couldn't make that transition for the star, you know.
Mhm.
And he gets stuck in a film where, you know, the script didn't do him any favors. Although I did like it, you know, there were moments where you're like, okay, and there were some good moments, and there were some creepy moments that weren't his fault. So,
Yeah, I
you
mean,
know, yeah. You know, I think Kevin Smith had a really good theory about that. If you ever track it down, they're like, "Oh yeah, when you think about it, huh?" So yeah, I also in comics though, honestly, it gets very hard for me after Siegel and Schuster to find anything in, like, you know, those crazy like 40s and 50s books that they didn't do or anything. I
mhm.
find that even like the 60s, Superman starts becoming, you know, a almost like a, you know, almost like a really character of a character. So you read those in the 70s,
Yeah.
they didn't really know where to take him. And there were some
Mhm.
that were good. There was some Gil Kane stuff that was very good. But I actually think, like, you know, the just before Crisis came out in 1985 with there was two really great stories. Whatever Happened to the Man of Tomorrow was phenomenal. Alan Moore in both of these, and then For the Man Who Has Everything, kind of showed what Superman could be at that point.
Yes.
Then I felt that after Crisis, say what you like about John Byrne, but I think John Byrne really revitalized that entire line at that point with Man of Steel. And you watch, you know, someone like Jerry Ordway, Dan Jurgens, you know, these guys are like they're doing a triangle time periods and stuff like that. That time just before Doomsday appeared. They were layering those stories together. That was interesting week to week, and it worked so well. They would have those Superman summits, and Mike Carlin, you know, God bless him for that. He really did toe the line on that one, and really kind of, as an editor, they really did. Louise Simonson, she was doing phenomenal work, you know.
Yeah.
You know, you had all these people that were on these books. You know, or I say Ordway is one of the greatest unsung talents in comics. you look at what they're doing, and you look at those books, and they're intertwined, and then the death happened, and they had to return and all those things, and then it just kind of there was the triangle years kept going, but then it wasn't as tightly knit, and the talent kind of started leaving. There was some good stuff in between, like Jeff Johns. So I'd say like that 1985 to 87 or 88, just before I see anything leading up to Doomsday, and even Doomsday was kind of fine. Was like but anything before that was actually really well done. I think there were good takes since. I think that Grant Morrison and Frank Quietly had a great run on All-Star Superman. I thought that was great. I think Jeff Johns did some really great work. I don't mind the book right now, the Josh Williamson run, but it's all right. I mean, he's doing with Dan Moore, and they have a Doomsday thing going on. I don't like the. I think his Flash was very good, Josh Williamson.
Yeah. I
don't know if he has as good a take on Superman, because there's nothing that's really feels concrete in it yet, and it's been like 24 issues.
I feel like with the current books, and I listened to the group editor talk on a friend of mine's podcast about, and I've said this about the Superman family kind of getting a little too big right now.
Yeah, oh yeah, who was a great Superman? Who was a great Superman writer? And then I think he botched it at the end of his run. Philip Kennedy Johnson. I thought he did a great job with the War World stuff. That was one of the best Superman stories in years. It was great. And then he brought back so many family members.
The one thing that bugs me is when you have a writer, and I'm going to point out Bendis.
Oh God, yeah.
He took something, and it was like he took over a book. He didn't like John Kent, so he like writes him out, then ages him up, and then kind of pushes him to the side. And then you have Philip Kennedy Johnson come in and try to do this thing where he reestablishes Lois and Clark as parents, adopting these young children.
Yeah.
But then when he left, everyone's kind of just like forgotten those characters existed.
Yeah.
And they haven't really appeared again.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. He created Philip Kennedy Johnson. I felt like his run may have been cut short, it feels like, in some regards. It
just feels like, we have these creators who are trying to do something revolutionary and like really, because for background, I have right here on my door autographed copy of Convergence #1 by Dan Jurgens, which is the birth of John Kent.
Yeah.
And when I met Dan, I said, the comic means a lot to me because the same year that you made Superman a father in the comics, my son was born. Wow. So it was really awesome to try to, just kind of that whole thing of like, I'm a dad, Superman's a dad. And I loved reading those stories. And then, I hate that he got aged up, and Dan gave me this look. And it was like, I understood it without him saying he was not happy with what they did, aging up John and everything like that. And I'm just like, I can totally understand that. And I just feel that creators try to move the characters and do stuff, and they all want to do their own thing. And I get it because I know if I wrote Superman, like I'd want to, I have my certain things I'd want to do too. So I get it. But it's like, there's really things that I miss in the character.
Yeah, me too. I agree with that 100%, my friend. I mean, like, honestly, if it's not, I always have the thing, if it's not broke, don't fix it. I thought John Kent was an amazing creation, especially when he was Superboy. I thought that was so cool, right? And I agree with you about Bendis. So you look at the another great run too is Peter Tomasi, and Patrick Gleason.
Yes.
Oh God, what a great run those guys had, and then you had Dan Jurgens on the regular book too, on the Action Comics.
I think Dan Jurgens, if I had to make off the top of my head, the top 3 greatest writer contributors to Superman, off the top of my head, I would go Jerry Siegel, in no particular order. Jerry Siegel, Dan Jurgens, and Mark Waid.
Oh yeah, absolutely. 100%.
Because I feel like Dan Jurgens doesn't get the credit that he deserves for as much as he's contributed to Superman over decades.
Right.
Like even into like I got to interview Dan years ago
Wow, that's great.
And I'd like to interview him again, but I'd like to focus on things he brought when he did Rebirth.
Right.
Everyone wants to talk about Death of Superman. I want to talk about Rebirth.
Well,
And
yeah, people I think people mischaracterize Dan Jurgens. I think I certainly did at one point too. Dan is actually, I think his drawing is going to away from him. I think he's just getting, gotten older or whatever. It's not his fault. The body isn't working and get used to, I think, with his arm and stuff like that. I think and not that his drawing is bad by any means. He was the Superman guy and Booster Gold and all those guys, right? He did these things in like the 80s and like really this 90s. And even like the 2000s, he even worked on Spider-Man. This is a guy who had like a 30-year career of like knocking spectacular art out. And it's not, not even, he wasn't a pinup guy. He was a guy who told the story with everything. You're talking about someone who really just came in there day after day. You can see the work he's did. This guy was a workhorse. He put the time in, and you can see the time he put into. When he came back and wrote those Action Comics with who was it? I think it was Patrick. It wasn't Patrick Gleason. It was another Patrick, I think, or Patch Bircher. Yeah, when you watch what he did with those books, and he had like the part of the rebirth of the father and stuff like that. The guy was telling good stories, and then recently he just did a Batman Black Label book.
it was like, I can't remember what it's called, but it was like set in the past.
Yeah.
Almost, it wasn't exactly a noir book.
Yeah,
but it was kind of like that.
His writing in that is, if he's not drawing as much as anymore, of course, it's not going to be. An artist has only so long they can really keep it at the top of their game, and the guy really did his work in there. However, I think it's like either First Night or whatever it's called. I can't remember the name of it. I'm talking about. Yep. The writing in that shows that as a writer, he only got better. And it is so good. And I was like, wow, it made me want to go back and just read his stuff all over again, just to see the writing, not just the art, but the writing. And, he was in like Superman. He had to make, entertainment month after month and all those things. So I get that, I get he was doing other things, but stuff he writes is actually super strong. It's really like, so he was a creative force. I think, and, you start to wonder, we start to wonder, why he's still around. Like, why don't they tap him for the books? That's these guys are still around, and even Jerry Ordway can't. I would think, like, I read an interview, he's slowing down too, but he can still write. These guys are still people who have that flavor of Superman. Not that Josh Williamson's a bad writer. It's not that I don't think that there's anybody out there right now. Maybe Wade, like you said, but I think even Wade at a certain point can only do so much. That I think that only the writer who really has captured that glory that kind of they had in the 80s. They had for this, and they were telling stories like Panic in the Sky was freaking amazing. Even stuff like, and it sounds weird, but I even think like Jeff Johns' stuff is actually pretty decent. I think Philip Kennedy Johnson was exciting to me because of that reason. I think he had that moment where it was like, oh God, but I agree with you. He started stuff and they took him off the book, and I'm like, what happened? I agree with that. So yeah, so those are my favorite. That's my long-winded answer of my favorite Superman stuff.
All right, yeah. I feel like we could sit here and talk like that for a very long time.
I think so too. It'll be very interesting too. Thanks for me, at least.
I want to ask you, when did you make the inspirational choice, and what was the catalyst to just be like, all right, now I'm going to write this play about Jerry and Joe?
So with Jerry and Joe, the thing of it is that I'd written comic book plays before. I'd written a play about Steve Ditko. I wrote a play about Frederick Wortham. I wrote a play about Bill Finger. And I'd taken the Bill Finger show from Rhode Island to New York, and we took it to Pennsylvania too, believe it or not.
Nice.
And it was great. It was great. We had a great run of things. And this was back in 2022. But then I said, I don't want to do any more comic book character shows, because unless I can do something that really matters, that I really feel we can benefit from. And then after the last show of the Bill Finger show, I'm walking down like 36th Street in New York, and I'm like, I'm gonna really miss this. I said, if there was any other character I could do, I would do Superman, and especially three of them I would do. I would tell you, the Rocketeer.
Ooh.
the teenage, and I actually know Jen Stevens. I talked to her once, and she's like, they're doing a documentary. She's like, well, not right now. And I'm like, okay, cool, no problem. But I would love to do that one day. Maybe we'll see. If she, we'll see. I love Jen. But Jen is a really cool person. I really wanted to do either that, the Ninja Turtles, which I thought would be very fun and hilarious because it's the 1980s, and that was ridiculous when that came out. And I said Superman. That would be the gold ring. Like, how do you do that? And I didn't want to make it just about Superman, but the beginning of comics as well. And kind of like see the Steve Ditko play and see the Batman show and kind of mention those, put those into the show somehow, and kind of intertwine them a little bit, because it is about the beginning of comics and like those things. So I really wanted to do that. And I said, how would I make a Superman play? And I wrote it within a year. I had the entire thing researched and ready to go, and I just did it. I mean, that's it. I just wrote it up. I said, I it's kind of like, I try to write at least 2 plays a year, or at least 3. I like to direct 2 original shows a year, and just kind of did it. I said, it's part of my fun. It's part of my passion. I said, this is what I want to do. So we wrote it. It was supposed to go up in. I could have put it up in spring of 2024. And I said, no, I want to do something else. I had a play about Louis the Prince I wanted to do. Fall, I want to do a comedy. So I was like, okay, I said, it'd be better to do it in the spring 2025, just before the Superman movie, and get people excited so they see that.
Yes. Yes.
It would be fantastic. I would love to do that. So I was very excited about that. And it was great. It was just really, and I love the cast. The people we have in there are so enthusiastic and so wonderful. It's been great. So yeah, that was a catalyst.
I love it. I took a class when I was working on my coursework at school and college and everything. It was about adapting, information, and it ended up not being what I wanted it to be.
Yeah.
But I have notes sketched around the house and stuff. I always thought this is the biography film that needs to be made.
Oh, absolutely.
And I started sketching ideas and scenes with my wife and like talking about what I would do. Like, a few years back, Robert Kirkman did a show on, it was on AMC, and it was like Robert Kirkman's Secret History of Comics.
Oh, comics. Yeah.
Yeah. And it was one season, and there was an episode, I actually bought it, was about Jerry Siegel and Joe Schuster, and it was just a great little like look at like their lives, the things they went through, the history. And I'm like, guys, this is such a powerful story that's not being mined. That would make a great bio because of just all the things that they suffered. And
oh my God, tell me about it. Yeah.
And I'm like,
yeah. Yeah, I felt that way about Bill Finger. I think that would be. I actually wrote a screenplay for Bill Finger, and it got a little traction, which was good. At one point, I would think that would be a great script. I think there's I know there's a Ditko documentary being made by, I believe, I can't say the name of it yet, but I know there's one being made. I know the person; he's a great guy. And I do think that this would be something, but it'd be a great companion piece. But I also wonder though, and this was part of the thing we had talked about. Will Warner Brothers let that happen? And that's the issue,
I think it would be how you paint Warner Brothers and DC Comics in it. I think you would definitely see maybe some terminology thrown around more of national publications and stuff.
Right. Absolutely. But yeah, that was my initial thought on that. I'd love to do a screenplay, but again, it's just a play. I do write screenplays as well, and I've had stuff produced, but I don't know. I feel like it's a story that could be very well told, but I think that it would be down the line when they feel like there's enough distance or enough in the future that no one will be bulking and actually talk about the history. I think it will happen one day, though. There'll be someone to break through that barrier.
It is a story. Now, what sources did you pull for research?
Oh, everything I get my hands on. Internet sources. I hit up a few people that I can't talk about.
Okay, makes sense.
Yeah, I can talk about you after the. I can tell you after the show. People are like, don't mention my name because of this reason. Some people are.
Oh no, I get it.
Like, yeah, but I wrote everything I could down. I interviewed an author who wrote a book about Jerry Siegel and Joe Schuster.
Which book?
The Superboys, I believe it's called.
Yep.
Brad Ricca.
Brad Ricca. Yep. I
Brad
love that book.
Great guy.
I bought it.
Mm.
I've wanted to interview him.
Oh, he's great.
I sent him a message years ago.
Mhm.
I read it. I couldn't put it down.
Mhm.
I read it over 2 days at work, just
Wow.
because. And then as soon as I was finished, I got on Amazon and it was on sale, and I bought it for my best friend for him to read.
Oh, it's such a great book. I met Brad. Brad's a great guy, really great guy.
And that was like, reading. I had read stuff about them, but reading that book, the way he put it. And I have another book on Jerry Siegel and Joe Schuster, but I really liked the way Brad did his, and I was like, this would be the way to start to like create the screenplay, the film,
Right.
and everything.
Right.
And I read it the same year that the Wonder Woman movie came out, because there was that
2017
film,
yeah.
the Professor Marsden and the Wonder Woman movie.
Oh yeah. That came out.
It came out the same year.
Wasn't a good take on that Wonder Woman stuff. I would like to see somebody do something like that. I don't know that it's me, but I would love to see someone get deeper into that stuff. Actually, one of the things about the Rico book, which I love, Brad stuff is really great. I agree with you. That would make a beginning of a good screenplay. So I kind of avoided everything about it. So there wouldn't be any confusion. But he really got in depth in that and got the facts. The thing I took from that book was the facts that because sometimes you have one source that tells you one thing, one source tells you another thing. Brad just does it and he says, "This is what it is. There's no BS in it." I like that, and he backs it up, which is very good. So I felt like anything that was, I wondered about, that was a good reference to say, "Oh no, Brad clears it up for you." I think he's a very smart guy, and a very good writer too, and a very nice guy, a very nice guy.
That's awesome. Like there is a tragedy to Jerry and Joe, but I think there's a little bit more tragicness. Sorry, I'm tongue tied. To Joe Schuster's story.
Yeah, absolutely.
You have the fact that he fell in love with
Joanne.
My mind's just leaving me right now.
Joanne Kovacs, but yeah, Joanne Carter.
Who became the stand-in model for Lois Lane.
Right.
And he was the one that was attracted to her, but she fell in love and married Jerry.
Right.
And then you had Joe's deteriorating eyesight.
Oh God, it's so sad. Yeah.
You have all this that the poor guy just had to overcome. And it's heartbreaking because he died, like he never got married, had any kids or anything.
Right.
And I'm like, that is really tragic.
Yeah.
And
the actor who plays Joe in the show, Derek Lorendo, I really like torturing him. So so I feel so bad saying that. He's so good at being tortured. And he's so good about portraying that on stage that he's so good about feeling just do a look, and you know that this guy has. You can tell like the world's weight on him. That's just the mark of a very good actor. Can say it without words, and I think that was very essential to cast Joe. And I agree with you. It's so tragic to watch him just walk at a certain point. Derek, he has that walk that you feel Joe's personality come out of it. It's so like such a sad portrayal. But it doesn't. But what I like about Derek is he doesn't lose that hope of like, oh yeah, this guy did get a little bit something at the end. Maybe that little bit of an uptick.
I'm really like bummed that I don't get to come see your show.
Why don't you come see it? Come down to Rhode Island.
I would love to. If I proposed it to my wife, we'd pack up. It's so difficult. It's mainly because with work, like my job, I work for Child Protective Services. I'm a child case manager, and I just was off for medical leave for a while.
Yeah, I got you.
It's just so hard sometimes to take time off because.
Well, I definitely have to record it then because I think I'm gonna have to sell it just so people can see it.
That is, I believe in that. I know that live theater is something special, but I think it's also a way of documenting that something existed.
Right.
And especially my kids are really getting involved in theater and they're doing community theater. And I want to make sure that I record them to pass on. And then, I will also want to document things at the theater so that, as the community theater that we're a part of goes on, they're like, hey, we did this show back then. This is what it looked like when we did it in 2023 compared to now, or here's the cast. Let's watch them, what they did when they did it back in 1968. Like, I just think it's just something, like you said, I don't want to sell it. Like, I'm going to record our show, but just so that I can watch back and see everyone, and I can have it for myself to view, and just to keepsake and be a part of it. And
I agree with that. You said, well, it's funny because I generally don't like to record my shows. I don't like to go back and look at them because I'm always looking forward. But then I start to realize I have a guy in my show, Jeff White, love him to death. Every show, he recording the show, and sometimes it does get away from us. But I see his point. I see your point on that too. I just like to. I like the idea if something happened and you have to be there, otherwise you'll miss it. And I think that's for me, that's important. But however, something like this, I can understand why people would want to see it and stuff like that. So I think it is significant. I also like the idea of, I have so many people are texting me around the world. I wish I could see your show. I'm like, well, it won't cost me anything to do and make a copy of it. It would mean something to see, so have somebody see it and see what we did and what happened. So I can agree with that at this time, but for this one especially. So I'll make sure you get something for that.
I appreciate that.
Yeah.
I know when we do our show, I'm gonna record it, and I'll send you a link and everything.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm gonna promote the hell out of it. Are you kidding me?
It'll be great. Like I said, I got so excited when I saw your about what you're doing, and I'm like, that is beautiful as a dramatic play and a real human story of the American dream.
Yeah,
and the spirit. I mean, the immigrant spirit, and
absolutely. I mean, these superheroes. You're looking at Jerry Siegel and Joe Schuster. The whole thing. All these superheroes came from. I hate to say it, but it's very true. From World War II. I mean, these superheroes. I mean, talk about an immigrant experience. You have two guys who are Jewish, who came, whose parents are, just came over, and they're scared. They might have to go to World War II, and they're, even though there was a highly Jewish population in Cleveland at the time, it's still the rest of the world. You have people going in camps. You have people, dying overseas. You have people, possibly their relatives, possibly, other things and other people that they know. And they have this immigrant experience that they come over and watch Superman. It's an immigrant experience. And that's the same thing. It's like in Bush Batman, it's hiding your identity, because you don't want to be seen, and, kind of having that go along those things. It's amazing that World War II and these high circumstances created these people kind of created these things as fantasies that really just lasted this long. It's so amazing to me.
I think because at the core, like, we could go into like the idea that this is American mythology.
Oh, absolutely.
We could dive into that really deeply if we chose to.
Yeah.
But at the core, there's something there. Like, and I always said, like, I do this thing just for fun on my personal YouTube channel. I call it the Requel Pitch. Yeah. It's where every Monday I drop an episode where I take a property, an IP, and I kind of pitch, okay, if I was in charge, would I make a reboot, a sequel, or whatever? It's just a thinking exercise,
Yeah.
Keep the creative mind go. The whole thing on, like, if I were to have the Superman property, like, where would I start and all this? And I was like, I think my first film would be called Superman, Champion of the Oppressed.
That's amazing.
And I would get back to that core idea of where he started, and then kind of the first film would be more Golden Age inspired. The second would be more Silver Age inspired, and then, like, I pitched a whole trilogy idea. But I feel like that's part of what I love about Superman. It's like, and I appreciate, like, with the George Reeves series and stuff, like, I like the element that come up, but I don't like when Superman goes too sci-fi, because I really like the idea of this person who is sci-fi stuck on Earth and being more grounded, even though he is, not of this planet. And, like, there's something about that, like, how would a Superman or this Superman character interact with everyday ordinary crime, everyday ordinary situations, like, and he's fighting back against corruption.
Absolutely, I love that too. I agree with that. There are some cosmic Superman stories I really like Tom King's Up in the Sky. I think is very well done.
It is. We're going to be
Yeah.
reviewing that later again this year. We
Oh,
did it like years ago, issue by issue, but we're going to do a different discussion this year.
I remember going to Walmart to pick those up during the pandemic because it was so damn good. It was so damn good. They were
I think
really-
Tom King's a really good writer. I'd like to see him do another Superman story.
Me too. He's doing a good Wonder Woman right now.
Yes.
I think his stuff is really great, and well done. I feel like Tom just needs to. He picks a character. I think he's picked Wonder Woman now. He picked I actually really like his Batman. Actually,
I did too.
I thought so good. So many people didn't like it, but I thought he did such a great job at making that character not just advance, but he really just captured it so well. And I really would like to see a good run on Superman from him. I think it'll come eventually. I think Superman's his favorite character, I think. But I think he's got to work up his take, I think is what it might be. He's working on all these other characters. Anyway, could talk about Tom for years. He's great.
Yeah. I mean, I want to know with your play, did you get any kind of issues, pushback, anything from like DC Comics or Warner Brothers, any kind of like things you've had to navigate legally that way to present your play?
Yeah, I mean, the thing is, it's kind of funny. I've done these enough that there comes a point. So years ago, I did a play about Buster Keaton. And during that play, I learned, I did a play about Buster Keaton, the Marx Brothers, and Lucille Ball.
Nice.
And I was going to tell you that, the thing of it is, I had a thing that happened during the Lucille Ball show. It's the only time I ever really got pushback from someone, and not that it taught me a lesson, but it taught me. I had a really nice guy from Desilu call me up, their companies, and he had one question for me. He says, "Do any of your characters resemble or really look like Lucille Ball?" And I'm like, "Yes." And he's like, "I'm going to ask you that again, son. Does any of your characters resemble or look like Lucille Ball?" I'm like, "Absolutely not, sir." And he goes, "Excellent. Enjoy your show."
Yeah.
And it sounds weird, but as long as I'm not representing something from Superman 2 or putting a scene up from something or doing a scene from their comics, generally they leave you alone. And the same thing with the Batman show. They generally leave you alone as long as you're not bad mouthing them. They generally don't. There won't be any lawsuits or cease and desists or anything like that. And I mean, the sad thing is that when you're writing about people who have passed, you get a lot more leeway as far as a playwright who's not making money or funneling money through their theater. So they kind of they tend to leave you alone. Now, if it was me writing a screenplay or doing a play on Broadway, it'd be nothing but legal tape at this point. I think I can get away with it with off Broadway, I think, but a Broadway or doing like a big, like a money making generating machine, that's when people start to notice you. So some basically people notice you're doing this for sure, yeah, but you probably look at it and be like, okay, what's the ticket price? What are they making? They do the additions, like it's not even worth our time. It's not hurting our brand, and we're not hurting their brand at all, and they know we're not hurting their brand. So we get left alone a lot, which is good.
I can't remember the year, but I know that there was a revival of It's a Bird, It's a Plane, It's Superman, where the people came in who did it. They changed the script. They wrote some new songs.
Oh yeah.
They altered it. And then because of like the licensing of how it was originally established, all that, basically they were only allowed to perform it like one time.
Yeah. That happens sometimes when people make those decisions. It's like,
and I was like, man, I really wish that they would renegotiate that licensing thing, go back and take that revised version, tweak it again a little bit, and put that out, like put that on Broadway or something with the character like that. I think would be exciting to just experience, and I have hope for the future of like the property, because I feel like there for a while, like DC and some of their characters, they were stuck in this more dark and grittier, grounded sense of
right.
And we need more in hope and optimism. Like years ago, I told my friend, I said, if I ever directed a Superman film, one of the tricks I would do is I would shoot with darker lenses at the start of the film. And as the film went on, I would lighten it up. But one thing I would do is I would make Superman's costume so bright.
Right.
But when I shot with a darker lens, it looked more normal, but still looked bright, so that it would stand out more than anything else. And then by the time you got to the end of the film, everything's starting to look brighter. So you have this journey of a visual of the movie starting darker, but as his trajectory and what he represents goes, the film lightens up kind of, but I would have his costume so bright that even by shooting with darker lenses and everything, he still is bright and stands out.
That's right.
And
Yeah.
would be the visual language of that would be there.
Yeah, that's great, actually. Yeah, absolutely, man.
So I don't want to take up too much of your time.
Sure.
And everything, but I've really enjoyed this conversation.
Me too, yeah.
Tell the people a bit more about your play, like when it goes up.
Sure. Did you have any last questions before I'll wrap it up for you? Was there any last questions you might have?
Man, we could go on forever. Like,
yeah, I know we could.
And I think I'd like to chat back with you in a couple months, just like pick back up, see how your play went, how it did, and
I would love that.
And then after getting a chance to view it, just kind of then talk about it.
Absolutely.
So like, come this fall, like August, September-ish.
Well, I may be taking it to New York in October. I think we might be actually.
Ooh,
so I'll talk about that too.
We'll stay in touch.
Absolutely, man. But you're still one. I love talking to you. If you're on Facebook, come friend me. Actually, feel free.
I'll find it.
I actually can't friend people because I'm at 5,000 people. But if you friend me, I'll make room for you. I promise. Send me a
Is it just
request.
under Lenny Schwartz?
It's actually Leonard Xavier Robert Schwartz. Don't ask. I got kicked off.
I got 3 first names.
There's only one Leonard Xavier Robert Schwartz, and that's not my real middle name, even though people think it is. And that's a mystery that will be solved on your show. It's not my real middle name.
That's funny.
Yeah, Leonard Xavier Robert Schwartz.
Found it. I sent it.
Nice. I'll make room for you tonight. I promise you.
We have 8 mutual friends.
What's that?
So we have 8 mutual friends.
Who are they? I don't say their names. I'll look at it later.
I'll see mutuals. We have. Let's see. Athena Finger.
Athena's wonderful. I love her.
Elliot S. Magan.
Oh, Elliot. Nice.
Roy Schwartz.
Yep.
And a few others, but yeah.
Yeah, nice. Athena's wonderful. Athena, if you listen to this, we love you. Anyway.
Well, I have enjoyed speaking with you, but go ahead and take us out. Let them know.
I'll take us out here. So basically, the show opens May 15th, goes through the 24th in Providence, Rhode Island, 5 Bell Street Chapel. Tickets are $18 online, $20 at the door. Come on down. It's going to be 2 hours of your life where you will learn something, you'll enjoy, you'll see phenomenal performers, and you'll just have a good night out at the theater. And it's good for all ages too, so it's good. That
is something real quick that on my podcast I strive for, and I tell people, I was like, some people don't have them. Like, I know that I use adult words is what we call them in this house with my kids in real life, but I was like, in my podcast, I'm talking about Superman. I don't want to do that because I think that Superman should be accessible to all ages.
Absolutely.
And the podcast should be a safe place to come and listen and learn without anything else.
I agree with that 100%. And I can't say enough. One thing that people will realize is that during my comic book plays, as we call them, the Batman play, the Sticko play, I have written stuff with language in it, and it's just when you're a writer, you get hired for different things, or you want to write or try to stretch your muscles or do something completely different than the last thing. However, with a Superman show and a Batman show and stuff that's inspired us as kids growing up, it'll never be any language in any of my comic book plays because it should be accessible for everybody. If they want to come see it, if they want to, they're not excluded because comic books aren't exclusive. Comic books and hobbies should never be exclusive. Should be exclusive to anything. And this place certainly should not be exclusive to anybody. If you're 10 years old, you'll love it. And if you're 6 years old, you'll be sitting next to a 10-year-old and love it as well. You have that opportunity at the very least to do that. Whether or not you do, it's okay. You don't like it, it's fine. But you have that opportunity that's presented to you that you can like something without being told you can't see it, basically.
I agree. All right. Well, are you on any other social medias or anything like that?
I am on Instagram, and it's my name, Lenny Schwartz, without an E, but yeah, LNNYSCHWARTZ. You can find me there. If you got anyone of your listeners can find me online too, but like I said, my Facebook is pretty full. But follow me on Instagram. I have plenty of room on that. So,
all right, we'll do that. I get on there sometimes, mainly from the podcast stuff. So I'll work on that later.
Instagram's okay, but yeah, and just keep in touch, man. I would love to talk some more at some point.
All right. Thank you, Lenny.
Thank you. And tell me when you're ending recording. I have one more question for you.
Yeah, go ahead and ask.
Oh, sure. The question is, when will this air?
I'll work on it. I'll probably drop it on Friday.
Nice, excellent, perfect.
So, yep.
I'll make sure just let me know when it's posted. I'll tag me or whatever, and I'll make sure I repost and everything.
All right, will do. And remember, everybody.
I am Brian Peters, the creator and host of Gravely Amusing. For the past 30 years, I've studied the history of gods and monsters in pop culture and our world. As a student of theology and history, I've tried to understand evil and its impact on us. As a writer, I've tried to share this knowledge. As a comedian, I've tried to make people laugh as I do it. But as a man-child, I'm still that scared 7-year-old boy. Join me as I share the history of horror and sci-fi, discuss classic and modern pop culture, and share a creepy story or two. This podcast may scare you, it may horrify you, or it may leave you gravely amused. Listen to Gravely Amusing on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, iHeartRadio, and wherever podcasts are found. Follow us on Twitter at gravely_amusing or on TikTok at gravely amusing.
Look up in the sky.